Starbase was threatening me with having to get a ride from the only folks who have vehicles on board. The fire brigade uses small electric vehicles to carry hoses and equipment to a fire and sometimes bring injured people to the infirmary. If they brought me to the docking ring because I was late, I would probably die of embarrassment. Thanks again for the wake-up, Starbase. I'm going. I ran out the door. No breakfast and no coffee. I'm the brand new information warfare officer on the exploration star jumper Far Reach. It simply would not make sense to miss my first real posting. The administration of Starbase and the joint human and Caxi colonies Egg and Reach have sponsored our mission to traverse the warp gates and go as far as we can. I had a hard time believing that nobody had ever mapped the whole system before, but here we are. Yes, humans have their wormhole generators and usually just link between points in space. It's quick and easy with minimal side effects. But before they met us, the Caxi didn't use them. When they reached space for the first time, they found a whole series of gates that linked together star systems all over the galaxy. It took them a long time to figure out how to use them, but once they did, it was much easier than developing their own FTL. They learned that each ship needs to have an addressing module which tells the gate where they want to go, and they have a list of addresses to known locations. I'm excited because this mission will be crewed by humans and Caxi. Their government put up about half the money for the mission, so they're an important part of the crew. They're the first sapient species we ever met. They're from a world that's smaller and lighter than ours. Plus, their planet is straight up and down, no tilt, and their orbit is almost perfectly circular. That means they have no seasons. It's always fall for us there. I went once for vacation with my moms. It was kind of weird. We were there for a month, and the weather was identical the whole time. They didn't even know what a meteorologist was until we explained the concept. They're so cute looking too. Shorter than us, furry with big expressive ears on the top of their head and a long fluffy tail that they can grab things with. Someone said they kind of look like a cat or squirrel or fox person from comics, and I guess I can see it. But they are definitely their own thing. Our ship Far Reach is an AI and has been alive for nearly 1,000 years. It's not unique that our ships have AIs or that they're so old, but it surprised me when I first heard it. Humans and AI have been working together mostly harmoniously for 2 millennia. When an AI takes on a new ship, they name it, and that becomes their name. I learned the hard way it's incredibly rude to call them by an old name. That was awkward. I apologized, and she said it was okay, and that I didn't know, but I think I was beat red for like 3 hours. Far Reach started out as a star jumper, an old ship originally designed to go between human colonies at relativistic speeds. They were already very old before wormhole generators were developed. They can thrust with their star drives at tens of Gs when needed, though when there are biological people on board, they keep the thrust around 1 G, and they coast through interstellar space at half the speed of light. Before they were Far Reach, the star jumper we're riding on was refitted at the Galactic docks in orbit around the Reach. It's a brand new facility meant to bring the Caxi and us closer together. Made up of human and Caxi facilities, it will enable us to work even closer together to design ships. As far as I know, Far Reach has more Caxi parts than any star jumper before. They still have their star drive and massive matter printers and EXO laser batteries just in case, but a lot of the interior was refitted and reconfigured to be an exploration ship. There's a new information warfare suite, hibernation cabinets just in case, and enough cabins for the crew to each have their own room with room to expand later. When I found out I was selected for the mission, I wondered why an exploration ship has an information warfare suite and your lovely information warfare officer. We're not planning on going to war per se, but we don't know who we'll be meeting, if anyone, and how friendly they'll be. A few years ago back in Seoul, Venus decided that AIs weren't people anymore and tried to beam malicious applications to shackle the AI ships. There was a small war that burned through a few systems, but they were soundly defeated. Wherever they showed up, Since then, they seem to have dropped the rhetoric and aren't really making anti-AI noises anymore, but I can't imagine that's the end of it. We can also send out our own weaponized signals if needed, but we probably won't need to do that. I make it to the docks out of breath and see Captain Corey standing in front of the airlock, fielding questions from the press. This station is large enough that it has more than one source of news, and they all jostle and jockey to get the best shot. She sees me walk up late and flicks an ear, and her tail swishes slightly while otherwise maintaining her composure for the cameras floating around her. I salute. Apologies for being late, Captain. Permission to come aboard. She returns the salute and says, permission granted, Lieutenant Mullen. Please endeavor to be more punctual from now on. Annoyed enough to say something after all. Oh well. Yes, Captain, thank you. I head inside as I hurry to my cabin, my boots clanging against the metal flooring. My cabin is right where I expected it to be, and I toss my belongings inside without even putting them away. I'll do it later. Then rush up to the command deck. Hi, Far Reach. I call out brightly as I walk onto the command deck. It's set up human style with the commander seat in the rear towards the center and everyone sitting around them at their stations. Good of you to join us, Melody, Far Reach says Riley. I was wondering if you were going to show up on the back of a fire brigade vehicle. There were chuckles from the other crew members. I'm known as being slightly late for things. It's really hard to be punctual, okay? Very funny, Far Reach. I made it on my own, and I managed to remember my coffee supplies, I said smugly. Good thing, too, Far Reach said, because I just happen to know that there are 30 kilos of coffee from the northern mountains of Parvi that were loaded on just this morning. I gasped. Parvi's mountain ranges were known for producing excellent coffee. Some said it was even better than some coffee from Earth. It was a rare treat. How did you manage that? I didn't even try to hide the surprise in my voice. She didn't have anything to do with it. That was all me. I turned and Ambassador Vini was standing there looking casually elegant. She wore a smart tailored uniform of the Caxi government and stood there with her hands on her hips. I heard that some people here enjoy good coffee, and I happened to know offhand of a shipment coming in and was able to ask for a donation to the cause, she said, her eyes laughing. I didn't think to ask where she learned so much about coffee. It's poisonous to Caxi. Even decaf will mess them up. They do love tea, though, and I'm sure the stores are packed with chamomile tea as well as other flavors. Thank you, Ambassador, I said gratefully. It's so nice of you. She smiled. I know a bit about coffee thanks to my human friends, and when I saw this go by, I couldn't help myself. Vini Joy, and she turned back to speaking with another officer. Maybe this trip would be more fun than I had originally thought. Honestly, it feels like Starbase rushed me for no reason. I practically ran to get to Far Reach before they left, and were just sitting here doing final checks. Ambassadors Terran and Nylon from home came on board and gave a little speech about how important our mission is and that we are the vanguards of our species and so on. Ambassador Vini stayed and spoke a little to thank us on behalf of all Caxi for our work, and there was polite applause. The doors were sealed, the umbilical disconnected, and that was that. We were off. Since we were in friendly space, my work wasn't really needed yet, so after my shift was finished, I went to my cabin and put my things away, bringing my coffee supplies, well labeled naturally, out to the kitchen. I ran into MAA, one of the Caxi over in engineering. Oh, hey, Lieutenant, she said brightly. This would not do. I had to put a stop to it right away. Waving my hand dismissively, I said, oh, please, there are only a few of us on board, and they just granted me a commission because of my position on board. Some kind of thing about it needing to be an officer. Just call me Melody. Okay, Melody. She looked confused. Why don't you want people to call you by your rank? Did you not earn it? I mean, yes, I went to officer candidate school back on Maya, and yes, I earned my commission, but things here are so casual. I really didn't want people calling my lieutenant or LT or any other combination of that. It's okay, I'm just Melody. I'm always Lieutenant Mullen on my paperwork or on my uniform. I gestured down to the little brass nameplate that said Mullen on my breast pocket. But I don't feel like a lieutenant. I feel like Melody. NAA nodded, but she didn't look sure. Oh, okay, Melody, if that's how you feel. But when we're around our superior officers, I'm still going to refer to you as Lieutenant Mullen. I smiled. It was as good as I was going to be able to get. That's fine. And MAA made a face. Okay, you're right. It seems way too cozy here to be called that all day, every day. I'll call you Melody, and you can call me MAA or May. She stopped. So long as we won't get written up about it. I don't see any problems with it so long as everyone is comfortable with it, Captain Quarry said. I nodded. Yes, Captain. She smiled. Perfect. I prefer Captain while we are working. When we're off duty and are speaking casually, then you may call me Salem. Noting that she was still on duty even though I wasn't, I said, thank you, Captain. I appreciate that. The captain looked over to my box of coffee supplies and said, what are you doing there, Melody? Oh, I'm putting my coffee supplies in my cabinet in the kitchen. I explained. Everyone had their own cabinet for their own snacks and treats that fell outside of the standard food served at mealtimes. I guess I just brought coffee and coffee-making supplies for my snacks. Captain Quarry chuckled. Yes, I read your dossier. That sounds like you. Even though she couldn't drink any coffee, she enjoyed the smell of it. I'm glad to have such a connoisseur on board. I'm just making the rounds and checking to see how everyone is settling in. I'll see you at dinner. And she walked down the hall towards the recreation room. What she means by that is that Caxi can't eat a lot of human foods. They don't have the ability to process them like we do. Many of the things that are in our foods are toxic to them. Caffeine is one of the big ones. We made a point to make sure that all the food served during meals on board is compatible with both of our species, but we were allowed some leeway in our snack cabinets. Hence my coffee. Starbase made it sound like Far Reach had coffee, but it's actually a coffee-flavored substitute. With enough milk and sugar, it's an okay simulacrum of coffee, but really it doesn't hold a candle to the real stuff. Actually, Far Reach, I asked, looking up. When they weren't on a screen, people tended to look up when they were asking Far Reach something. I thought it was weird when I started out, but before long I was doing it too. Did Ambassador Vini really bring coffee on board? Good afternoon, Melody. Yes, Ambassador Vini did bring coffee on board, but it was determined that the amount she bought was too large for the few humans who listed the beverage as a requirement. The amount taken finally was lowered from the original 30 kilograms to 10. My heart fell. 10 kilos is a lot of coffee, but we don't know when we're going to get more, so we don't know how long it has to last. I brought 2 kilos with me on board, so I'll have to be careful. 1 cup a day looks like. I hope I don't go into withdrawal. That's disappointing, but thanks for letting me know, Far Reach. No problem at all, Melody. Dinner is in 20 minutes. Shall I call you when it's time to go to the mess? Yes, please, Far Reach. Thank you. It was decided that we should try and take all our meals together whenever possible. There were only a few of us, and Far Reach was able to keep an eye on things and let us know if something came up. So the mess was set up with one large table in the middle that sat everyone and smaller tables around the edge for when people came in to eat a snack or relax outside of their rooms. In what I hope is a preview of what's to come, the meal was excellent. There was a Caxi chef and a human one, but they both worked together to make the meals as harmonious and compatible as possible. This meal is so good, chefs, I said as I was going up for a second helping. Is this how all of our meals are going to be? I tried to not sound too hopeful. Chef Clean and Chef Perinem smiled broadly. I'm so glad you liked it, Chef Klein said. We going to be doing our best to make every meal as good as we can, Chef Perim added. After dinner, I went back to my room and studied the Information Warfare Suite. It was brand new and had Caxi integration, so I had to study hard to make sure I was up to speed before it was needed. This time I set an alarm to make sure I didn't get lost in my studies and forgot to sleep. I went to bed on time and got a full night's rest. The next day, we were scheduled to arrive at the first warp gate.